Hey, so this one's going to be a pretty quick one. We're going to talk about sizing Liberty pumps, and this kind of applies to all pumps as far as sewage and effluent type pumps. But this is specific to Liberty because that's what we keep. Um, so I'm not going to show any of the pump curves, but if you go look up the specs of a specific pump, you'll notice that there's like they'll have like a small pump curve chart on there. That pump chart is dealing with what's called total dynamic head. The quick way to calculate that, just kind of napkin math basically, you can do it's every foot up equals 1 foot, every 100 foot out equals 1 foot, and I like to add a 2 foot for a 90, and then usually another 2 foot to account for your check valve and your ball valve. That kind of that and that number based off that chart on the actual spec sheets will kind of give you a ballpark of whether or not a pump will work. And we'll talk about that later about why you want to size a pump properly. But we're going to get a little more specific here. So on the Liberty Pump website, it's on the this is the address right here, Liberty Pumps /services /pump sizing. There's an option to get immediate results. So I already pre-generated this, but we're going to do like an example. So static head, that's your vertical run. So we know in this example that I made, we're going up 10 feet. Okay. Now we're doing a sewage pump, so in this particular example, so the pipe diameter on this one's going to be 2 inches because it's going to be one of the LE models. Horizontal length of pipe, we're going to do 100 feet, just just a generic 100 feet. Actually, let's do 200 feet. Why not? Let's change that. Plastic pipe is pretty much always going to be plastic. Number of elbows, we're going to have at least 190. Number 45s, we're going to go ahead and say we'll have 2 of those. And I was taught this math, and it's not really that complicated, but as far as total dynamic head and all that, 90s count as 2 feet, 45s count as 1 foot. T's I think count as 4 feet if I remember right. Check valves are usually counted as 1 foot. Couplings are counted as 1 foot. And gate or ball valves. I don't know why they call it gate valves here, but ball valves apply there too. They typically count as 1 foot. Anything that can slow the flow down and cause friction loss, has to be accounted for here. So in this particular example, I've got the 190 that I think we're probably going to have, and 245s that way, just in case we got to snake around something. You're going to have a check valve, and we actually need to change this too. So we're going to have 10 couplings minimum. It's important to remember that when you're doing this math on this website, that horizontal length of pipe, even if you're using bell end pipe, those couplings on that bell end pipe still count as couplings for this calculation. So 200 foot, you're going to have 10 pieces of 20 foot long, so you're going to have 10 couplings. And number of gate valves, 1. So total equivalent length of pipe in this scenario is 265.4 feet. Okay, so we're going to click next, and I set that to sewage pumps, and look at that, it's going to show you all your pump curves for all the different models they make. Pretty doggone handy. Now let's see, so the LE50, that's that orange bar that's right here, that orange bar right there. So let's just say, so you got to look at where this blue mark here, that's your total dynamic head. So wherever that intersects that pump curve, that's what your mass. That's how many gallons per minute you can get from that pump. So in this particular example, it looks like you're going to get about 50 gallons per minute out of a half force pump. So there you go. Is that too much pump? Is that not enough pump? Well, it depends. It depends on what the requirements are. In this particular example, honestly, let's see, the red is the 40 series. That's a 4/10. So the 4/10 is right there. In this particular example, a 4/10 would probably be sufficient. It's going to vary from area to area, but typically, my understanding is about 15 gallons per minute is about what is typically sufficient. But again, you need to let your contractor tell you what GPM he needs, because that's going to be determined by the health department and local codes. So, but in this particular example, a 410 would probably be good enough. But let's say we go nuts and we put a 1 horse in there. So that would be way up here. That I would call that about 60 gallons per minute. That's probably way too much, and I'm going to get into why. So when you're sizing one of these pumps, it's very important to size it correctly, because if you put too big of a pump in the wrong application, what happens is the pump will short cycle. So inside that pump motor, there is it's a sealed unit. Okay, it's oiled for life. So when that pump motor kicks on, that oil circulates through the pump. But if the pump goes and cuts right back off, because it can move 100 gallons a minute, and it's only got a pump 20 or 30 gallons, and it goes and cuts back off, and then fills back up and cuts back off, that oil doesn't have time to circulate through the motor, which causes it to wear. You don't want pumps to short cycle. Very important they don't do that. That dramatically, very dramatically shortens the life of the pump. But Liberty keeps all kinds of stuff. You've got your effluent pumps, you've got your sump pumps, you've got sewage pumps, you've got grinder pumps, you've got packages, you've got all kinds of neat stuff. Like the 370 sewage packages we keep. They got the 44, I believe it's 44 gallon basins, or the Provor package we keep. It's got it's the 380. It's a short squat one. You got they make a pump for just about every situation that involves black or gray water. They got condensate pumps. This is what the LS-20 I think it is, or LSC-20, I forget. Condensate pumps. They make a very good condensate pump. They got crawl space pumps that have like little basins built in. The CSPs, CSP-257 and -237, I think. Pretty handy. Transfer pumps, trash. They don't make an actual like high horsepower trash pump. That's about the only pump they don't make that I know of. They've got explosion proof pumps, which if you're in an environment dealing with fuel oil, or if you're around dangerous chemicals, that's what you would use in those situations. Yeah, they got a pump for just about every application. And their website is excellent. It is one of the best manufacturer websites I've ever seen. It's very, very easy to navigate. I highly encourage you to browse it when you have some free time. Check out all the different models they make. Do item inquiries in our system to see what we keep. We keep a very, very good variety of what they have, and also, Snyder's not that far, and they keep a whole bunch of stuff too, so we can always pick up what we need from them if we don't have it. They also make a lot of commercial pumps. You can do custom basins. You can do duplex systems. You can have alarm packages built in with them. Which commercial, especially if you're doing basins like that, the process is a little different. You'll have to email Snyder, and they'll send it off to Liberty, to their engineers, and they'll actually engineer it and generate a quote and email it back to you. So it's a little more involved, but with those types of situations, you still got to know all that information I just put into this for this chart, but you also need to know voltage and whether it's a duplex or simplex system. That's about it. Just make sure you got all your facts straight. Make sure you check your math, and if you're not sure, you can always call Snyder and give them the specs and say, "Hey, I need a pump that can do this. What do you got?" They're pretty good about helping with that. They got a couple guys over there that specialize in that. And if they can't get you an answer, they'll refer you to Liberty, and they will have the answer. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, I wanted to keep this in under 10 minutes. Can't really think of anything else I want to cover on it. Just definitely check out their website. It's very, very, very well done. I wish all the manufacturers had websites like this. All right, have a good one.